Hello, I'm Julia Cordova. I hope you're having a fantastic weekend. I thought I would go over some charts today, and in doing so, I will try to focus on RSI trend lines and how I match them up with price trend lines, and go from there. So, with that said, let's start off by talking about oil. Okay. This is my oil weekly chart. I know this is so scary for people who haven't followed me, but I like my lines, y'all. I like my lines. So anyway, you probably realize like I haven't been trading oil for a while because it hasn't really been doing anything that I liked. And finally this week it started doing things that I'm familiar with and that I like. And one of those things was that it bounced off of one of my lines. What? Yay! So uh, when it did that, I was like, this might be an opportunity. So yeah, I think my first oil trade, I was like, it might be worth a square or two of toilet paper, but conserve, conserve. And we did a little scalp. It didn't quite get as high as I wanted it to. But then the next time I said, might be worth a few more squares. That was a much better trade. In terms of profit, but because oil was so volatile this week, it wasn't. I didn't have the best entry in the world. I just sort of entered and then clinched for a little bit, and I was okay with that because if you're gonna buy something that is in a trajectory that looks like this, and you go all in, that's weird. That is strange, right? So, whenever you're bottom catching or whenever you're sort of trying to catch a trend change, the best thing to do is in my opinion, is to scale in, to have a little skin in the game, so that you feel like you're following your gut and your trade plan, but it's certainly not to go all in and have like this one and only trade, because really, I mean, this thing could have kept going for a long time. But anyway, let's look at the 4 hour here and get some more color on it. So I was very impressed with my key line here. I did mention that if price got above this MA here, that it would, or actually I think it was this one even, that it would squeeze upwards, and it got all the way to the key line here. Really nice bounce off of it. And then, because maybe I'm just optimistic, I don't know, I don't know, but I was expecting it. My expectations from here, and I took profit here, or just below, were that it would sort of bounce around a little bit. Let's get some momentum up. This is an important line. I know you're all probably like, where'd you get that line? I can't tell you that, but it's been on my chart for a while. So um, I feel it's a very important line. So anyway, I went short here at the end of the day at about 28.90, because I thought it's not going to close above the key line, and I didn't. I guess it closed right on the key line, but then in after hours it went right back up, and I don't like that. I don't like that at all. I would have dramatically preferred it to consolidate here, to get some momentum going. I just didn't like it. I didn't like that it got above resistance. And in my experience, algos don't like to hand you the keys to next week and say, okay, now you can be bullish. It could be. I don't know. It could be. It's just my experience is it's not usually that clear cut. So I don't like it when it closes right above or below something. I prefer that it closes down a little bit, so that there's some wiggle room here, because I just feel like that was so bullish that it was almost bearish. But it's hard to know. It's hard to say. That's just my own personal preference. So I ended up cutting all of my positions, and I don't know what's going to happen. I know there's some news about an OPEC meeting being delayed. How I understand why that's bearish, but how bearish could it possibly be? I mean, I don't know. I don't know. And then there's some talk of tariffs. I have no idea how that interacts. I don't honestly understand how all this news um, affects price. But I will say that it's certainly, I mean, with these MAs curling up, even if it drops down to 25.13 or even all the way here to 23.03, it's still got some momentum to try and help it recover. We'll have to see. I mean, for all I know, it won't drop down. But I I just didn't like this. So my personal plan, whenever this happens, actually, the first time this happens, I sell at resistance and then I wait until it gets above and back tests. And if it does it successfully, then I feel like that's a good long. And it did do that, but again, I just didn't like it because it was the end of the week. I don't like it. I felt like it was too much. I felt like it was too much of a gift. Um, mm, Maybe it was though. Sometimes that does happen, but we'll have to see. So, and I mean, as far as RSI goes, it's sort of out in the middle of nowhere right now. Let's see what happens on open. Maybe it'll get some support with price support, and that would be great. But I also, and I'm not a fundamentals person, but I know that, I mean, I was pretty shocked when they started the price war to begin with. I was like, well, why are you doing that now? Really? And I'm not sure that they got whatever they were trying to get accomplished. And I don't know exactly what that is. I have some theories, but I'm not a fundy person, so I, I just don't know. I don't know. But I don't know. I'm just going to look at my lines, look at my trend lines for RSI, look at my trend lines for price, and just level to level. And I mean, for all I know, this could be a giant, big-headed head and shoulders. Who knows? Let's see. We'll see. We'll see. Now let's talk about ES. Here's the weekly chart. So far, what I see is a nice bounce off of one of my trend lines and then a fake breakdown or false breakdown. And then last week, I was bullish for the week. I said it would open or close above where it opened. That happened. Yeah, barely. But, and it's hard. It's hard when you're trying to save for the whole week, but I thought it would be bullish for a little bit at least. I don't necessarily consider this a double top because it's sort of out in the middle of nowhere here, and to me it just looks like resistance. So we'll have to see. And if it is resistance, then in fact, when it does get above 26.31 or so, I would expect a lot of buying. So we'll have, if it does get above, we'll have to see. And if not, I mean, I'm going to probably become, bearish again if it should get below. Well, I'll have to see. I'll have to see. I have to look at my Twitter tape and whatnot. But if it goes back and tests 23.14 successfully, I think that would be actually. I mean, I don't think it will actually. I think if it gets down there, it'll probably keep going, just because it's tried, and it'll probably keep going if it gets below there. But we shall see. On the upside this week is about, let's see, above 26.65 or so this week, and we'll start paying attention to whether or not this is a trend change or a bounce. And let's look at the daily chart. This doesn't look okay. The entire trajectory of this chart is bearish, of this near-term price action is bearish. But the last week or so does not necessarily look bearish to me. It looks more like flaggy. So for tomorrow, Monday, I am watching 24.81, and I've got some values marked here again to see what RSI is doing when we get there. And Yeah, so I think again above 26, 24, and we're going to start to see a little whoop action all the way to 27, 23. And then we shall also see whether or not there will be any cats injured. I don't believe there are yet, but who knows? Who knows? Um, I mentioned last week in gold that this might be a ginormous head and shoulders, and so far, looking good. This looks like a giant bull flag here that is just now broken out. But we'll have to see. I think they like to chase a lot of people away from these things. It had some tough RSI resistance to get through, but it looks like it back tested. I'll make it bigger for you. It looks like it back tested this RSI here, right about when it hit my yellow line or orange line here, and then so I'm watching the rocket line now if it gets higher, which is 1659, and I'm also still watching this martini line because it could actually form another inverse head and shoulders inside of here. It likes to, gold is liking to be volatile a little bit now, so it's good. Yeah, I think it looks bullish. Bullish, bullish, bullish right now, bullish. And again, if it got below 1611, I'd start to worry a little bit right now. But so far, so good. Hmm. Let's talk about silver. Silver is not looking as bullish as gold does, which is shocking to me because I really did believe that silver used to lead gold. I don't know, maybe it doesn't anymore, but in RSI here, do you see what we have? We have sort of an inverse head and shoulders forming. So I'm going to watch and see whether or not we can get above this imminent resistance here. And if so, that's probably, I'm guessing, correlating with this gift line that I haphazardly, but I meant to do it, drew in on one of my videos. So if it can get above this 14.95 level, I think it'll be a lot more interesting to folks. That's like a double resistance for price, and it looks like it's probably a double resistance for RSI. So that's what I'm watching. And I might be tempted if it dipped below to buy it right here at around 14. In fact, I know I will. I know I'll try. I'll be like, is it, does it have RSI support? Does it have RSI support? Because I look for price support and RSI support to line up, just like I look for the resistances to line up. And we'll see what we can do from there. Now, Natty. I was so smart trading oil last week. I did so good, and I was so smart because I sold at resistance, and then my plan was to buy again above. Am I that smart in terms of Natty? No, I am not. I am not. I did take partial profits, but I kept a lot of my trade on. So I'm probably screwed I don't know, but Natty squeezed, in case you weren't watching the price action, Natty squeezed with oil on Friday. And frankly, though, I had expected it to end green on Thursday, just the way that it was acting intraday. I was like, oh, this looks to me like it's going to close green. It had all the hallmarks of a green close. And then when it didn't, I kind of got a little extra bullish because I'm like, oh, the fact that it didn't means it's trying to scare people away from it, because according to my cockamamie calculations, it should have, or I don't know. I was just expecting it to. And a lot of times if I expect something to happen and it doesn't happen, then it sort of gets amplified moving forward. But anyway, just my own observations about my own trading. Probably don't make any sense to you. I'm sorry. I'm having a day, y'all. I need another Bloody Mary. But anyway, these are the pivots I'm watching for Monday, and I'll publish this on Twitter if you want to see it. But when I was looking at this price action on Friday, I just thought, you know what? It looks like it's. This is probably bad because you're supposed to trade what is happening, right? Not what you think is going to happen. But what I thought was going to happen is that we're going to have another cute little green candle that'll come in between these two pivots because I like personally one of my favorite candle formations is a giant green, 3 red down, and then another giant green. But sometimes they're like in slow motion. So even though it's not one giant green, it kind of is. It kind of is. And sometimes these are just broken up. So that's what I was expecting. But the bad news is, I think that if it makes a new low here, because it did almost double bottom. So if it gets anywhere close to 1.52, it's going way lower, probably all the way to 1.44 or lower. Or lower. We'll have to see where RSI support is if it does that. But anyway, so that is an ongoing trade I have that I'm pretty nervous about, and yeah, I feel like I should have been consistent in my trades, but I just I feel like a squeeze is coming, and so I was probably a little too haphazard about that. Anyway. I need a drink, y'all. I hope that you have a wonderful week. Thank you so much for subscribing. And I hope this was helpful. And I will see you around the interwebs. Bye.